The Fender Lead is one of the most underrated vintage guitars on the market. So today we're going to talk about why you should check one out and what makes these things so great. So stick around. So in the late 70s, Fender was in kind of a bind. They were losing a lot of market share to brands like Schecter, Hamer, Ibanez, as the kind of hair metal phase really took full swing in the music industry. Pointy guitars were all the rage, and that was not what Fender was doing. And so to combat that, in the late 70s, in 1979, Fender came out with the Lead series. This guitar only lasted for a couple of years and had some really unique features. But today we're going to talk about why they are such great vintage guitars and why you should be on the lookout for one. So before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the Fender Lead. Like I said, in the late 70s, Fender was losing ground. They weren't really held in high regard for their quality, and they weren't really engaging young players. And so to combat that, Fender came out with this Lead series. Now the Lead series was kind of Fender's attempt to capture some of that high gain market, but it wasn't really a huge hit for a couple of reasons. So after 1981, they discontinued the line, and they only lasted about 3 years. So the Fender Lead was kind of this hodgepodge of a Fender Stratocaster and a Fender Telecaster. It had the double cutaway like a Fender Stratocaster, although the horns were much more symmetrical. It had a Fender Stratocaster style headstock, and it just kind of had this overall Strat feel. It had a belly cut for comfort. But one of the things that kind of it adopted from the Telecaster was a string-through body. Now I know that there were hardtail Strats that were made, but the Tele is much more known for the string-through body. So Fender never really found a footing with these guitars for those reasons, but also because they had some weird electronic things going on. So the Fender Lead series came in 3 iterations. There was a Fender Lead 1, a Fender Lead 2, and a Fender Lead 3. Now the Fender Lead 1 had a single Seth Lever designed pickup in the bridge. The Fender Lead 2 series had 2 single coils, and the Fender Lead 3 had 2 Seth Lever designed pickups. Now the single coils were really hot. They were called their X1 series single coil pickups, and they were wound about 2,000 times more than the typical Stratocaster pickup was. So they were really high output, really high gain, and it didn't really appeal to Fender players because they wanted a more traditional style of pickup, but it didn't really catch on with the high gain market either. Another thing that these guitars had that were kind of weird or quacky was that they had 2 selector switches. So one was a traditional neck, middle, bridge selector, but the other one was, depending on your model, either an in-phase, out-of-phase selector, like with the Fender Lead 2, or it was a coil splitting selector. So for instance, if you had it in the neck position with the Fender Lead 3 and you had the coil splitting on, it would split the coil of that neck pickup. It also had a single master volume and master tone. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the history of the Fender Lead. Now let's talk about why these are such great guitars and why you should be checking them out right now. So for one, they are fantastic modding platforms. Like I said, they came with these designs, but everything that you needed was on the pick guard. So you could easily take off the pick guard, change things out, put a different pick guard on, and you didn't have to do a ton of body work to mod the guitars. Now, obviously, I have done some significant modding to this. This doesn't look anything like a Fender Lead that would have come out in the first iteration. I added 2 Firebird pickups from Geppetto pickups. Now these are made in Taylor, Texas, and they're fantastic. They are some of the best handmade, hand-wound pickups that I've been able to find, and I love these things. They sound so good. But I thought, hey, if we're gonna do some modding, why not throw some crazy Firebird pickups in it, you know? And that's what's cool about these vintage instruments. They have some history and life to them, but they're still easily moddable, and you're not gonna really damage the value of these guitars. You can find Fender Leads below $1,000 all day long. I mean, they don't really command a lot of money because they didn't have a huge market to begin with. Okay, a couple other mods that I did was I painted this guitar. Now this is a Daphne blue. On all the cameras that I ever use, it shows up much more like a royal blue, but in person it's a Daphne blue. I also got rid of the weird switching that they did. So I don't have any switches on this guitar. Instead, I have a blend knob. So this knob blends between the bridge and the neck positions. So at 1, it's just the bridge, and as I blend to 5, it becomes both the pickups, and then as I blend to 10, it becomes the neck pickup. Oftentimes what I will do is when I'm playing on the bridge, I'll just move it to like a 2 or a 3, and it just ever so slightly brings in the neck pickup to add a little bit of subtle fullness, take away some of the brittleness of what a bridge pickup typically has, and it gives you a really unique and distinct sound, and I really love it. Now another reason that you should be checking these guitars out is the neck. So this neck is really interesting. The nut width is 1 5/8, and that is a really, really skinny nut width. Now Fender did this because they were really going after the guys that were playing fast, and these necks are really built to be played fast and aggressively. But what's really interesting is this is the traditional nut width. So Stratocasters from 1954, 1955, 1956 typically have a 1.6 or 1.58 nut width. And coupled with this more traditional headstock, this is really the first neck that Fender made in a more traditional style since they were taken over by CBS. So this is kind of the closest vintage neck you can get without getting a pre-CBS neck. And that's kind of why I love these things, is you have a neck that's been worn in, it's been played, the wood kind of knows it's a neck at this point, but it's not going to be crazy expensive. It's not going to be multiple thousands of dollars for a neck like this. So that's another advantage to picking up these Fender leads, is they've been played and worn in, but they're still really, really affordable. Okay, a couple things that you should look out for when looking for a lead. The build quality. So I don't know if you can see this, but the neck doesn't join the body perfectly. The width of the neck pocket is not the same as the width of the neck. And that's just poor craftsmanship that Fender was kind of known for in the late 70s. There's also overspray on this headstock, which is okay, but it doesn't look great. But like I said, they're great modding platforms. I added the Firebird pickups. I put this more traditional 3-saddle bridge on it, which I love. I have master volume, master tones. And then I opted for something crazy like gold hardware. I thought, it looks kind of crazy, it looks kind of quirky, and I think it's cool. Okay, so that's kind of a quick rundown of the Fender lead and why I love them so much. They're platforms that you can mod really easy. They're vintage instruments that have been played and broken in, so yeah, I think they're great. Let me know what you think about the Fender lead in the comments below, and what you would do to mod yours if you had one. That would be really cool. So. Okay, let's talk about what I've been listening to this week. Okay, this week I've been listening to the Michigan Rattlers, That Kind of Life. I just kind of recently came across the Michigan Rattlers, but man, what a band. They sound really good. They have kind of this eclectic Americana sound, which I really love, and the vocals sound really good. So a couple of the songs that stuck out to me were The Storm. I think that's a fantastic opening track. It really sets the mood for the record and what you're going to experience. I love that one. Another one is Arms of My Love. I think that's a great track. And then the title track, That Kind of Life. Those are some really, really good tracks that will kind of give you a good synopsis of what the Michigan Rattlers are all about. So, all right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Like I said, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you soon. Peace.